So, to me, what does the capitalist class have if the masses are waking up? What do the plutocrats and the oligarchy have if the masses are basically coming after the money that they've stolen from you? They have the police, right? They have the police. So that is why in all of these states, from Louisiana to North Dakota to now South Dakota, you have seen these Republican governors basically try to create laws to make it illegal to protest, to make it illegal to slow down business, slow down construction of these pipelines. Basically, the police and the governors, in this case South Dakota, are working for the Wall Street bankers who don't want their investment slowed down. Not just the fossil fuel companies who obviously are in control of these pipelines and own these pipelines, but the banks invested in them, and the financial companies invested in them, and the hedge funds invested in them. So the police and the government are basically trying to felonize protesting. They're trying to make it seem like whether it be Native Americans banging on drums, Native Americans and environmental activists singing in song, that is equivalent of rioting. We saw this at Standing Rock, and they have been trying since the Standing Rock movement to basically preemptively shut this down from happening again. And I keep saying one of the reasons we want to raise money is we're going to go cover Keystone, like I keep saying. But we need to get out there because they're trying to chill the First Amendment. They're trying to make you scared crapless, shitless. I've already demonetized myself today. They're trying to scare you shitless and intimidate you from going out and exercising your First Amendment. So what's amazing to me about this is in Louisiana, bills have actually passed with this. So in other states, bills have almost passed with this. So fortunately, there are some judges with their heads straight. So in South Dakota, I briefly mentioned this, but I want to go more in depth. A federal judge on Wednesday temporarily blocked enforcement of some new South Dakota laws that aim to prevent disruptive demonstrations against the Keystone XL pipeline. A lawsuit spearheaded by the American Civil Liberties Union against Governor Kristi Noem and State Attorney General Jason Ravnsborg alleges that the legislation chills protected speech. In issuing a preliminary injunction halting several provisions of the legislation, U.S. District Judge Lawrence Pearsall said the ACLU is likely to win most of its challenges to the bill, quote, with the possible exception for direction of another person participating in a riot to use force or violence. Pearsall added that protesters must be allowed to plan and seek public support and money, quote, before and in anticipation of the next construction season. Conversely, supporters of the pipeline should also have the opportunity to respond rather than waiting for confrontation during actual construction. Quote, we're glad the court recognized that these vague and overbroad laws threaten the First Amendment rights of South Dakotans on every side of the issue, said Stephen Perver, an ACLU attorney. The legislation hastily passed in March by the Republican-dominated legislature allows officials to pursue criminal or civil penalties against demonstrators who engage in, quote, riot boosting, defined in part as encouraging violence during a riot. It's meant to head off Keystone XL protests like those mounted against the Dakota Access Pipeline in North Dakota, resulted in 761 arrests over a 6-month period. Kristen Wildman, Noem's spokesman, said the governor and her team are reviewing the ruling and won't be making public comments as long as the case remains active, blah, 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 blah. So basically, what these governors, what these state lawmakers are trying to do is essentially destroy the planet in peace. Essentially say, we're going to destroy the planet and we don't want any of you Native American or environmental hippies to fucking bother us while we do it. That is what these laws are meant to do. And it's scary. It's not only scary if you're a protester. It's not only scary if you're Native American. It's not only scary if you're just a regular environmental activist. What if you're a journalist that wants to go cover these things? If you're me from Status Quo, and I'm not going to not go somewhere because, these laws are in effect, I'm still going to go. But couldn't they try and group journalists in that aren't, have their credible, not from the credible outlets like the New York Times or the Washington Post, who aren't going to go cover it anyway? Couldn't they go and say, oh, you're with the protesters, you're facing 25 years? The point is to chill protesters and activists, but also to threaten the very journalists that go and cover these things, independent journalists, documentary filmmakers. They don't want any cameras or eyes on what's going on. And what's going on is very, very, very dangerous. Crude oil pipelines, natural gas pipelines crossing tens of thousands of waterways, maybe more than that, tens of thousands of waterways in America that serve as the drinking sources for tens of millions of people, that serve where animal life is, that could desecrate lands. They don't want you to bother them while they destroy the planet. So thankfully, this is currently just a temporary block and a temporary injunction, but thankfully we have a judge that put a halt to this, because I got news for you. As passionate as you might be, whether you're a Native American, whether you're an environmentalist, whatever, there's realities. A lot of you who might have gone to Standing Rock or would want to go protest Keystone XL pipeline, you have kids or you have responsibilities. You might be deterred from going, even though you want to, if you might be facing 25 years in jail for the crime of protesting or rioting. This is something that I would expect to see in maybe China, in some authoritarian country that basically doesn't allow free speech. In America, and this is why I always say it's not a country anymore, it's the United Corporations of America. It's crystal clear. And this is just one judge in South Dakota. Louisiana has passed these laws. I believe Texas has passed similar laws. So it's very scary. And, I covered on my birthday this travesty of what's going on with Julian Assange. But I got news for you folks. And this is not meant in any way to pat myself on the shoulder. I didn't even think about it when I was there, that maybe even me, when I was at the Young Turks, could have potentially done this. But I've had Native Americans come up to me, particularly at some conferences I went to and where I've just seen, and said, your camera being on during Standing Rock saved lives. And I said, what do you mean? I guess I just never thought about it that way. And they said, well, if you weren't there or cameras weren't on, those police would have started shooting real bullets. So if they're, and by the way, it's not just me. They were just normal activists who had their cameras on during, Facebook living and all these things. So when you have, whether it's, full-time journalists or just kind of activists live streaming things, when you have cameras on these things, the police have to actually, stop and think before they do things. So I'm going to do some more research on what other states have these laws potentially coming through, and we need to fight against them, because it's not a progressive conservative thing. It's just a First Amendment thing. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com, where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.